Hi, students. Congratulations, class of 2020. This is your graduation message from me to you. We're turning down that volume first. All right. But before we get started today, I wanted to take a second and have a moment of silence and light a candle for all of your family members who are no longer with us or cannot be with us today on this big occasion of you finishing college. And I know several students of my own who've lost siblings or parents while they were at Gutman, and many others of you who lost family members and people close to you prior to coming to our college. And it's really at moments like these where those absences feel very present. Additionally, I'm lighting this candle for the victims of racial violence in our country, especially the young people whose lives were cut short before they were able to experience something like a college graduation. I specifically am thinking of Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and Tamir Rice at this time, although there are many, many more. So let's take just a brief pause right now to think of all of those lives and to be thankful for being here, for still being here. I'm going to set this down and keep it burning while I talk to you, kind of as a symbol of all of those spirits and souls still being with us. So, dear class of 2020 Gutman Community College graduates, congratulations on the immense accomplishment of graduating at this historical moment amid a pandemic, amid our country and the world demanding long overdue racial justice for the anti-Blackness that has permeated Western society for hundreds of years, amid your own disappointments of not being able to walk across the stage in your caps and gowns to receive your college diploma in front of your families and loved ones. Your college diploma! As much as this might feel anticlimactic, or even irrelevant given the times we're living in, your education matters. You matter. To paraphrase one of the most influential scholars in my career as an educator, Paulo Friere, education doesn't change the world. People change the world. And as we have seen in the past week, you are using your education already to raise your voices, to effect change here at Gutman before you leave us, and to demand what's right for students. We thank you for that. I thank you for that. One thing that I've realized in my 20 years of teaching and almost 46 years of life on this earth is that we are always learning. I know the term lifelong learner gets tossed around a lot in educational jargon, but being a lifelong learner is a real and true pursuit. I only started to study about and complicate and analyze my own whiteness when I was 21 years old, older than some of you today. This was during my first senior year of my undergraduate career at UNC Chapel Hill. I was an education major with plans to be a high school English teacher, and I started taking classes that introduced me to critical race theory. And upon learning all of these new ideas, I realized that the School of Education was not thinking critically about race. And we all know that public schools in America are very racist institutions. How could they be ignoring the issue of race in our core education classes? I got very frustrated, and so I dropped out. Yes, your professor right here is a School of Education dropout. I changed my major to cultural studies, where I was able to study art, film, journalism, media, all through various theoretical lenses, repeatedly going back to critical race theory. I spent an extra year at undergrad so that I could do this, and I loved it. It was as if my brain were on fire every single day. I tell you this story about my own college experience to remind you that oftentimes your plan is not your path. Let me repeat that on slow it down a little bit. Your plan is not always your path. I have to give credit to one of my first bosses when I did AmeriCorps after undergrad, who is now Dr. Charles McKinney, a history professor at Rhodes College in Tennessee, because I have borrowed this idea from him. And as you know, as a faculty member, I always want you, and I will always cite my sources. Back to your plan is not your path. I always have a plan. I'm a little bit of an anxious person. I have a lot of frenetic energy. For those of you who have had class with me, you probably know this. And planning calms me. I struggle to live in the present, but I can tell you what my plan is for 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now. And this is challenging because, as we all know, our plans aren't always what life has in store for us. I am sure you did not plan to graduate online, nor did you plan to be forced into distance learning your last semester of college. You did not plan to be away from your faculty and peers these last 4 months, nor did you plan to be away from our tiny little campus on West 40th Street. But that was the path we all had to travel. But our paths are still here. They're in front of us right now. And there is so much possibility on all of those paths. There's a possibility right now for a more just future in our country for all people. There's a possibility for a better version of Gutman Community College for current and future students. There's a possibility for you to move on to a job after you graduate or to your 4-year transfer school to continue to build yourself in your education as the world spins and struggles to become something new. Your path might not be exactly what you planned. I certainly did not plan to drop out of the School of Education back when I was an undergrad, to lose the scholarship that was allowing me to actually go to college in the first place. But that was my path. Eventually, that path led me to move to New York City and become a teacher anyways. That twisting and turning path that has been my education, my jobs, my mentors, my professors, my friends, is what led me eventually to Gutman. I never thought that I would have become a professor. If you had told me back when I was your age that someday I would be a college professor, I would have laughed at you. But here I am, living in the greatest city in the world, still, with hands down the best students I have ever had the privilege to teach. So, class of 2020, please keep your hearts open to whatever your path presents you. It might not be the plan you dreamed of, but it also might be a million times more incredible than you could have possibly imagined. Now, surprisingly, I have a lot of photographs of you guys, which is not very normal for me as a college professor. But since I had so many photographs, I put a little slideshow for you together because I was feeling it for you. So I'm going to play this as I conclude my words to you. Here we go. So this is my 20th year teaching, concluding right now. I moved to New York City 21 years ago, and I've been teaching almost the entire time I've been here. And every so often as a teacher, you have a group of students that just grab your heart. For me, the first group of students that did that were the students I was teaching during 9/11. And this year, you guys, class of 2020, are yet another group of students that just kind of has me right here. For those of you that I taught in arts in New York City, which all these photographs came from, I still think about these beautiful portraits. Julia Vandenhoever, who's one of my closest friends and was your artist in residence, took of you and how vulnerable and open you were to share your stories about your dreams with Julia, myself, and each other. And my Ecuador girls. Last summer, I went to Ecuador on a Global Gutman trip, the first ever Global Gutman trip with all young women students. I love you guys. Our trip seems like another lifetime ago at this point, and I am so thankful that we all went to Ecuador together for 3 weeks. I'll never forget Angie falling into, there she is. That was totally not planned. That was complete magic timing. Angie and Leslie, she was also on the trip. Angie falling into a swamp hole up to her neck. The crazy locust that chased us around Raul's house. How seasick we all got on the boat going to the whale watch, but then listening and hearing the whales singing in the Pacific Ocean while we were snorkeling. The swings over the city of Quito. You young women taught me in those 3 weeks about how your generation sees the world and how different it is from how I see the world. And I really appreciated learning that from you. I think about our conversations all the time. Now to my horror, film, and literature classes that I taught last fall. Those 2 classes were by far my favorite class that I have ever taught at Gutman Community College. I would get so excited to come to class and read with you, talk with you, watch a film with you, because again, we would watch a film that I had already watched maybe 5 or 6 times by myself, and you saw things differently than me. I feel like I learned just as much from you as hopefully you did from me. Whenever I see a new horror movie trailer, I want to text you guys or email you and be like, oh my gosh, have you seen this? And then make plans to hopefully go see it with you. I hope that someday when coronavirus is a thing of the past, we can all meet up and go to a horror movie together. And then my class from this semester, my Octavia Butler and the Racial Imagination class. Who would have guessed that this class would be so aligned with our current society? I have been trying to teach this class for years. I never would have thought I would be teaching it during a global pandemic and a time in the American history of extreme racial uprising. I hope your takeaway from this class was that Octavia tried to tell us all of these things in her works of literature, and that we should listen to, read, and study the voices of Black women because, as we read this semester, Octavia was a prophet in her own right. And with that, you're done. I'm done. I will miss you all. Once it is safe to move about the city again, please stop by and say hi so I can hug you. Goodbye, since I was not able to hug you at graduation. And congratulations, class of 2020. I have great hope in the future knowing that you guys are going out into the world. I am here for you if you need me always. Be safe and keep fighting.